every time I put up a Monday morning email where I go, hey, shout out to the entrepreneurs who are going to jump in the trenches, even with the anxiety that you have right now, even though you're overwhelmed. I believe in you. Don't listen to the doubters. Don't listen to the negative inner voice. You can do this. Go. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's Monday and I needed that. You know why?
How did you know? How were you inside my head?
Because when my business was new and when it was unpredictable, by the way, it's like now 15 years old and it still has elements of unpredictability, right? Weekends are usually when disasters happen or start brewing and they show up on a Monday.
Welcome back to another episode of the Empire Podcast Q&A sessions. I'm here with Bedros Keuilian. And this week's question is, how do you automate prospecting on social media? Oh man, we got so much killer content for you here. I'm calling Facebook and Instagram the modern day call centers now because there is ways to automate this prospecting that people are doing.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it.
All right. So first of all, you have both Facebook and Instagram have direct message or chat options. And so we can get lots of leads into those systems. And then we can basically just set up the right scripts to move people forward down the line. So are you guys using any Facebook chat in any of the programs that you have?
We're actually using ManyChat right now. And we're going to put in ManyChat to more of our funnel processes, even our Empire Coaching funnel.
Right, and that's just a way that you can set up the automated chat. So you have, you send somebody through an ad directly into the Facebook chat, and then from there, they interact with the chat bot.
Yeah.
And then you can escalate it eventually up into a human interaction, right?
Yeah. And for those of you that don't know what a ManyChat is or a chat bot is, like imagine this. It's email marketing on steroids, right? It's the best way to do it. For one, let's all face it. We know that Facebook wants you to keep the traffic on Facebook, and they're going to reward you for not sending people off of Facebook. So one of the best ways to do that is to get them in a chat communication. So you're literally going to run ads to get people hooked on the chat bot, on the chat communication, to ask a question and create dialogue with you.
So instead of sending them to a page where they opt into something and then you do an email autoresponder series, let's just do it all inside of Facebook, Zuckerberg says.
Exactly that. Yeah. And since Zuckerberg doesn't want you to send people off of Facebook, he is willing to reward you by charging you less per lead to keep them on ManyChat. But here's the other thing. As the ManyChat automation takes over, it also operates as an email platform, meaning if you want to send out a broadcast to everyone who's come on board to that ManyChat funnel, you can. And we're not talking about 20, 30% open rates. We're talking 90, 95% open rates.
Right, because everybody opens their Facebook Messenger.
Everybody opens their Facebook Messenger because it's part of the app, it's part of the platform that they're already in. They don't feel threatened. They don't have to go and open up their emails and wonder who this person is. And so you have higher interaction, which translates to higher conversions.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and then you can also do the same thing in Instagram. So in Instagram, you're going to have to request people send you a direct message, or maybe they just will. But then, and this requires actually a little bit more manual labor, is that you can have team members in your Instagram replying back and forth, or you can do it yourself, of course. But we know several people that have assistants with scripts that when, for example, if you made a video and said, hey, if you're interested in my coaching, send me a direct message, then the direct message is sent in and somebody can sit there and reply and get the information needed, and then it's escalated to a phone call with the sales closer, or maybe like, hey, Bedros, I need you to step in, answer a couple questions here to close the sale. So all of that is capable in Instagram direct message as well, right?
Absolutely. So don't ever think that you have to always automate through technology. You can automate through humans. And in fact, there's a human standing to my left right there. His name is Tyler, and he's right behind the camera right now. But Tyler's full-time gig is to literally go through my social media platform, Messenger and DMs, and fish out people who have a question, answer their questions, because you and I don't typically have the time. We're trying to run our businesses to answer every single question. So one, I want to be helpful, so he'll answer the questions on my behalf, but then he'll ask them, have you ever considered working with Bedros in a mentorship program or a coaching program or a workshop that he's running, and he'll start the dialogue, and they might say, yeah, in fact I have, and he'll say, well, you know, here's his upcoming workshop, and he's converted people into our $2,000 workshops that way. And then it's up to me, once they come to the workshop, to, if they're a good fit, to scale them into our mastermind, right? But if we didn't do that, we'd be leaving money on the table and also not servicing these people who have questions. Because at the end of the day, look, they have questions, and yeah, they want free answers, but this is our way of taking them from suspects to prospects. So I'll answer your free questions and then follow up with, have you thought about coaching with me, right? And by the way, if they don't want to coach with me, he'll tend to refer them to, well, here's a product. If you can't afford the high-end coaching, here's a product or a course that you might want to consider, which still gets them into our funnel and hopefully starts moving them, ascending them up our financial ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. And so people might be thinking, well, my goodness, how could I possibly just, give somebody else, the opportunity to answer my direct messages? What would they say? They wouldn't know what to do. Well, here's the thing. What you will do is, once you answer enough questions in your direct messages, typically the same question you're going to get all the time. And if you're doing your stories right, according to my formula, you're telling people what to ask, and therefore it can just all be scripted. Just like a person getting on a sales call with somebody, this can all be scripted. And there's even apps out there now where you can just press a button and it puts in an exact answer. So the person could just be going through and doing this very, very quickly. But essentially it's all scripts. It's all scripts answering the same question, just like the chatbot as well.
Yep.
Anything else on that?
Yeah, one thing I want to give you credit for is the everything okay?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So when someone goes ghost on Tyler, we learned this from you. And so I'll just see, like, he'll go through, and everyone who's gone ghost on him, where he's asked, like, hey, have you considered maybe coming to a workshop? Here's the link to it. Go read about it. Let me know if you have any questions. And of course, you can tell they looked at it because it says seen, but they didn't give any feedback. So he'll wait a few days and then come back with, hey, everything okay? Everything all right?
Yeah.
And of course, it automatically triggers a response and the dialogue continues. That doesn't mean that they end up buying, but it's an opportunity to open that door for the dialogue to continue, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And 99% of the time, people just say, oh, I was really busy, or, had to do, a weekend away. I did get one really awkward one, though, one time.
Did you?
Yeah, they were like, yeah, I just had laser eye surgery and it went really bad, and I was like, oh, I'm really sorry.
Now you got to give that person therapy, right? Because you asked.
Right. But 99% of the time, it's going to work out great.
Yeah.
And it's just going to get people back, re-engaged in the conversation, and away you go.
Correct. And now, even though that was a method that I've learned from you and that we basically stole from you and use, we officially are calling that the Bedros DM method.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm renaming it and taking full credit for it by calling it the Bedros DM method. Folks, feel free to share that on social media that it's mine.
Good. And so now I've got more stuff for you to steal, because we're going to talk about my new methods that I've got here for creating what's called a content factory. Because first of all, you want to automate all the conversations and everything in there, but you also want to automate all the content creation that gets people into the conversations. And this is where a lot of people struggle, because they're like, oh my goodness, how do I make all this content? It seems like it's taking forever, and it shouldn't. Not with the system I'm going to teach you here. So recently I had a coaching call with a woman. She's in the acne world, and she was like, I don't know what to say and all these messages. And so I broke it down like this. Essentially, every entrepreneur, we're saying the same thing almost over and over again, right? Like you're beating the drum down with Fit Body Boot Camp. It's 30-minute workouts. Ours is different than other companies for this, this, and this. And we all have essentially 5 or so overriding messages.
Right.
And I know that people will listen to these messages over and over again, because when I was a kid, I had to go to church all the time, and they say the same thing every week, and people still go back. So if you're worrying like, oh, I don't come up with a new thing and feels like I'm repeating myself, don't worry. Don't worry. So what I do is I teach people to come up with the 5 most important messages that their audience needs to hear. Like, for example, my friend Greg O'Gallagher, Kino Body, he has 300,000 followers. He beats the drum on train only 3 times per week, train fasted, do intermittent fasting, lift heavy, don't do cardio, and then eat whatever you want, basically. He talks about how with the intermittent fasting, you can eat 500 calories worth of chocolate every day on this system. So he has those 5 messages. So just repeat those 5 messages. Now people get a little bit hung up. Well, okay, if I repeat those 5 messages, I'm just saying the same thing every day. Well, now we're going to do 5 different ways to teach those 5 messages. So the 5 different ways, and this is why I call it a 5x5 killer content grid, is number 1, you're going to tell your story about it.
Do you sell the grid? Like, can I buy the grid online?
Right. This is magical. Only I can make a 5x5 grid. Right. Exactly.
What about the 7x7 grid?
Right. The 7x7 grid with the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
I'm sorry,
Sunday.
because this show is also part entertainment. You must go into. So, friends, here's a little rant we have. Listen, when Craig is kind enough to turn on his Instagram Live or Instagram videos and Facebook and all that shit, and literally draw a grid to showcase the 7 days of the week on a piece of paper or marker board,
Right.
don't ask him do you have that grid that I can buy somewhere? Just get a fucking piece of paper and draw the 7 boxes for the 7 days of the week. Because over dinner in Dallas, you were telling us this, and I was breaking out into sweat because people were hung up on the grid and not on the information that you're sharing with them.
I put up 4 quadrants the other day, and someone was like, "Where can I get that?" It's just 2 lines. It's literally 2 lines.
It's the crucifix. It's the Jesus crucifix.
But the great thing is like we now know like that is going to be a hot opt-in when we do make it available.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so that is good. So
Back
anyways,
to the 5x5.
Yeah, back to the 5x5. So I will come to everybody's house and draw out a 5x5 grid if they need me to. So just ask. Anyways, you have your 5 main messages. And now down the other side you have 5 different ways to tell these messages. Number 1 is your story. What's your story, or what's Greg's story with training 3 times per week, or intermittent fasting, or all this stuff? Next is you can tell success stories about each one of those 5 categories. The third thing is tie your wagon to a celebrity and basically tell a celebrity story about each one of the 5 messages. So maybe it's, you can just go and Google what celebrities use intermittent fasting. And then you can say, well, Ben Affleck uses intermittent fasting, and so therefore you should use it too. And then the fourth one is talk about a myth. What's a myth around the thing that you believe that everybody else believes, and they're all wrong? So you can talk about a myth. And then finally, a statistic around it. So those 5 things will give you 25 pieces of content when you have the 5 topics and the 5 ways of telling that story. So now you basically planned out your entire month's worth of content, and you can film that stuff very rapidly using that content creation grid. Make sense?
You know what makes total sense, and I know people are still probably going to get hung up on it, saying the buts, and here's what I can tell you about that. It's all about the sets and reps. Say the but trust the process that Craig laid out, because let me tell you, it works for him. He makes millions, works for me. I make millions. I told you, I straight up copy from him, and then I rename it and say I came up with it, and then... Well, I should probably sell it and make money from it. But all that said, you trust the process and you do it anyway, even though you're going to butt it. And through the sets and reps, soon the creativity kicks in, and you have no shortage of ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you create any content, remember these 7 words, and I've shared them before, but remember, enter the conversation in the prospect's mind. So when you're making content for Monday morning for your prospects, even if you're filming it a week in advance, think about what's the conversation that my client's going to be having, my reader, my viewer is going to have going on in their head Monday morning. If they're in the fitness world, they're coming off a weekend where they gained weight, and you have to address that. You have to meet them where they are, right?
Yeah, that's so huge. And every time I put up a Monday morning email where I go, hey, shout out to the entrepreneurs who are going to jump in the trenches, even with the anxiety that you have right now, even though you're overwhelmed. I believe in you. Don't listen to the doubters. Don't listen to the negative inner voice. You can do this. Go. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's Monday and I needed that. You know why?
How did you know? How were you inside my head?
Because when my business was new and when it was unpredictable, by the way, it's like now 15 years old and it still has elements of unpredictability, right? Weekends are usually when disasters happen or start brewing, and they show up on a Monday. Either you were maybe undisciplined all weekend, and so you didn't kind of get ahead of the 8 ball, and now that you know it's Monday morning and the 8 ball is about to punch you in the face, that produces overwhelming anxiety. So when I give a shout out video to new entrepreneurs on a Monday and people are like, oh my God, you read my mind. No, I read my own mind.
Right.
I know what you're going through. I'm going through it as well, and I've gone through it in the past. So you've got to enter that conversation as it's happening, and when you do, I forget who it was, but they said if you can explain someone's problems to them better than they can explain it to you, you've got them as a customer.
I'm pretty sure I heard it first from Perry Belcher.
Okay.
I don't know if he heard it from somebody else, but I mean, that guy has many good sayings, and
Yeah.
that was one of the ones that I remember from him. So you do that. Now you've got the grid, you got all these content ideas, you know to enter the conversation in their head because that's going to build the know, love, and trust factor when you can explain their problems better than they can. And then what you do is you batch film all this stuff. So if you look at your calendar, you go, hey, you know what? Super Bowl weekend's coming up. I'm going to hit them with a message the day after the Super Bowl that's going to enter the conversation. You know, they probably ate a whole bunch of junk. They stayed up late. They're frustrated. I'm just going to deliver this message about getting back on track, and the best way to get back on track is to click the link below and get my program. Boom, you're going to nail that one all the time. So you just batch film it, and then you can give it to an assistant. And you know, I have an assistant now. She uploads all my videos to Instagram, all my stories. I think that we found an app that can actually let you schedule stories in advance. So now she's going to have this all automated. Then the DMs will come in. That'll be automated. And so we've taken something that seemed like a whole bunch of manual labor using Instagram direct messaging and Instagram content, and we've gotten it as much down to a film factory as possible. I'm really, really focused on how can I create a factory out of this, and then from there, how can I then reuse, repurpose, and redistribute my best messages? So the things that generate the most leads, the most customers, you either take that content and you put it on Facebook, or you put it on LinkedIn, or you put it on something else, or you go, okay, this was a really great message, and I did film it for Instagram, so I need to film a longer version in the horizontal thing for YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn so it better fits those platforms. But you just test and track all that stuff so you know and you get the most mileage out of all the content you create.
You know what's great about this is, the whole topic is social media sales automation, and this is no different than what we talked about earlier, which is scaling your business. It's creating systems to allow your business to scale. It's creating systems to allow your social media marketing to scale in an automated fashion so it can scale without your involvement. And again, you're automating through technology, you're automating through people, your assistant. And guys and gals, one thing we're doing right now, I mean, today is what? It's January 28th, it's 1:16 Pacific time in beautiful, sunny Southern California. This is our second video that we're batch processing of probably 5 or 6 that we're going to do today. And then the team behind the cameras here are going to take this footage and they're going to decide how they're going to put it out there. They're going to cut it up, chop it up, make it a podcast, make it a YouTube video, create a 1 minute
clip.
1 minute sizzle reel, 15 seconds for the Instagram stories, and then we're going to be able to repurpose this and drive traffic to it all day long. But it's not like Craig and I get together once a week and film an episode. We batch process, and then they go through the process of creating automation and systems, and that's how this thing happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And then here's the cool thing is what I've realized is if you get one that's really good, you can reuse it probably about 4 to 6 weeks later. I mean, most people think, oh, I got to come up with something new all the time. No, man, I've had a couple of stories that I just rerun every 6 weeks, and it always gets the same result because not everybody's watching the stories every day. Plus, they forget because they're consuming so much content. So test and track, which is kind of like the last lesson I want to give in this. Testing and tracking, whether it's testing and tracking email open rates and click-through rates and all that good stuff, or testing and tracking sales conversion rates on video sales letters. We all know to do that stuff. But in your social media messages, you also have to be testing and tracking, especially if you get into the stories like I do. And so we have people that are tracking, and Jason Capital, our friend, man, he really kicked my butt on this because he was saying we test the number of people that DM on every slide, the number of people that swipe up on every slide. And he got it down to a science and figured out exactly how to sell best through Instagram stories. And I was like, man, I got to keep up with you. So if you are taking this stuff seriously, you do have to test, okay, what's the message that I put in this story? How many people viewed each slide? How many people took the call to action that I had there? And if you do this for about 4 weeks, you'll figure out how your story should look, what the best ones are, they're going to get the sales. And recently by doing this, I realized, at first when I was doing my Instagram stuff, I thought, on Sunday I won't sell, it's Sunday, I'm going to come up with a motivational piece of advice. And then I realized after tracking stuff, I get the most views on my Sunday story. And here I am just not wanting to sell on Sunday because of some hang up I had about, not shopping on Sunday or something. So now I make sure there's a really good offer in the Sunday because that's the one that's actually going to be seen the most. Like actually 25% increase in the number of views on a Sunday story, mostly because people are just sitting around looking at Instagram all day.
Right. That makes total sense. Have
Yeah,
more
and I
time.
wouldn't have figured it out if I wasn't testing and tracking things. So you got to watch your numbers. You watch your numbers, you figure out ways to automate, and you build a factory. There's a little bit more manual labor in some of these things compared to Facebook ad to video sales letter, but it's all worth it when you get it dialed in.
That's it, folks. It's social media sales automation. And whether you do the automation through technology or through other people, remember, the key is that you're not doing it so that you can focus on the growth of your business while others focus on the lead generation of your business. And you're going to pay them well to do that lead generation, and together you grow as an organism. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Empire Show. Be sure to like, share, comment, and tag us each time you post this in your stories. See ya.
Hey, thanks so much for being here for today's Empire Podcast Show. We would love for you to do a quick little favor for us. Just go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment, share it with your friends. And if you're interested in growing your business faster, go to bedroskoulian.com/empire, fill out the application to see if you're a good fit for our Empire Mastermind group.